It's dawn, and as the Dawn Princess glides gracefully below the Lions Gate Bridge, a new day breaks in Canada's largest port. At 77,000 tons, the Dawn Princess is almost twice the size of the Titanic. She's a floating resort, carrying 2,000 passengers and 1,000 crew. Very few ports in the world have the moorage, the facilities, and the expertise to accommodate such a luxurious Leviathan. Vancouver is one of them. Every day, over 10,000 people come to work in and around these waters. They encompass every occupation imaginable. From crane drivers to concierge, from computer specialists to tugboat skippers, and from cops to criminals. Here, steel, sweat, and sophistication combine to move billions of dollars worth of goods each year. The port generates enormous revenues for the city, the province, and the entire country. Yet few Canadians are aware of this. Even the average Vancouverite is mostly oblivious to what actually happens down here.
This is total independence. You know, someone builds you a piece of equipment for $3 or $4 million and they give it to you and they say, here, go to work and enjoy it. You know, I mean, how can you beat that? And get paid for it, so good life.
You're outside, you're on the water, you get to deal with people from all different nationalities. You get the Greeks and the Filipinos and the Chinese and almost from everywhere in the world. And it makes it quite fascinating. You always find a different character or two to have a good conversation with.
I think my partner and I hold the record for the port, I think, for most containers in 8 hours.
How many would that be?
279.
Vancouver, in fact, is a port city, but what is surprising is that there's very little recognition of the value of the port. I mean, you look past it to the mountains.
Princess Cruise Line's Commodore Stan Jameson has a unique view of Vancouver.
You have a good infrastructure here for a ship of this size. You know, we've got an international airport close by, good traffic connections with Seattle, and just really everything that we need.
As Canada's gateway to the Pacific, the port reaches out to touch the lives of all Canadians.
We see ourselves as a very important part of the Canadian economy here in terms of being the linkage with Asia. We're obviously Toronto's best link to Asia. 85% of our business is Asia. We are the gateway.
During the summer, Vancouver is the home port to an armada of Alaska cruise liners. In the wake of these huge vessels lies a rich bounty for the local economy. They bring in tens of thousands of tourists from all over the world, many for the first time. They also have to be resupplied every week with everything from fresh produce to diesel fuel. The Princess Port engineer is Michael Cogan.
As port engineer, my job basically is to make sure that the vessels that come into Port of Vancouver are maintained to the standards of Princess rules and regulations, along with the Coast Guard, of course. We do a lot of maintenance here in Vancouver for various reasons. There is a vast amount of auxiliary equipment that we have repaired throughout local contractors and local vendors in the Greater Vancouver area.
One of the companies closely tied to the cruise industry is Dynamic Engineering. And in a business traditionally dominated by men, Dynamic happens to be run by two sisters, Heidi and Ellen Crichton. The founder of the company was their father, Lyle.
The number of ships have certainly increased, and the size of the ships have increased also, which means that the engines that are used are much larger than what they were 10 or 20 years ago.
I'm the administration manager and a shareholder, and I really get involved in every part of the business. The occasional time there, you know, you have some people who don't want to deal with women, but generally once people know you know what you're doing, then it's no problem, and in fact some people prefer working with women.
Dynamic has passed the International Industrial Standard, ISO 9002.
Within those standards, there are checks and balances, quality deficiency reports. We're continually reviewing our processes to make sure that we are optimizing our efficiency and continuing to maintain a very high standard of quality.
The quality of tradesmen in Vancouver is very, very high. We're very pleased with all our contractors here. On the technical side, I keep a good 85 to 95% of our repair budget in the Vancouver area.
The detritus generated by cruise ships is considerable, but recycling and safe handling ensures it's no threat to the environment of the port.
The only stuff that we take off the ship is cans, metal cans which we compress and we land. I think we land them all here, and it would be about 45 cubic meters a cruise. Apart from that, everything else is treated. The plastic, timber, paper is all burnt in our two big incinerators. Our food is pulped, food waste is pulped, and then we do put that over the ship's side, but that's perfectly legal when we're outside 4 miles, and in fact it's just fish food and feeds the fish.
The tourist trade is an annual bonanza for local hotels, particularly the Pan Pacific. This 5-diamond hotel is located beside the cruise ship terminal at Canada Place, the city's landmark location. Its operations manager is David Carell.
The Alaska cruise industry is extremely important to the hotel. We have excellent relationships with both Holland America and Princess. I believe through the peak cruise ship months, which are May through September, the cruise ship industry generates approximately 30% of our total revenues. The hotel generates 500 direct employment jobs into local economy and numerous indirect jobs as well. A number of suppliers who are supplying the hotel so that we can in turn offer those goods and services to our guests.
You have to be able to handle stress because you've got priority, like everything is priority. People come for requests that should have been taken care of yesterday and they want it right now. You know? With a sense of humor, I should say. Yes, that's the only way to survive.
We've been host to a number of international conferences. Most recently was the 1997 APEC conference in Vancouver, which we were the host for a number of the meetings. We saw 18 of the world leaders from the Asia Pacific region. What I get personally out of working in hotels is it's very rewarding to be able to meet people from all around the world, to have that interaction and see different cultures.
One of the most important aspects of port life is the efficient movement of containers. It's an industry pioneered in Vancouver, and this is where high-tech meets heavy lifting.
You're in your own little world up here. A lot of people, they're scared of the heights, but myself, once you're in here, you feel like you're part of the machinery, so you don't even think about it.
All of the world's major ports compete fiercely for container traffic. It's a rapidly expanding and highly lucrative aspect of international shipping. Many commodities that used to be shipped as bulk are now being containerized. To stay ahead of the competition, the Port of Vancouver has invested millions in employee training and software development.
And everything is tracked by computer, every container. No running around looking for containers. It's all on these screens that I have here in the trucks and that, and tells the foreman where exactly we are at any given time.
Morley Strawn is the marketing director of Terminal Systems Incorporated.
TSI Terminal Systems Inc. Is a company made up of 5 divisions. The first and largest division is the container operating division, such as here at Vanterm and also at Deltaport. With Deltaport, it is more state-of-the-art now than Seattle or Tacoma, and Seattle and Tacoma are recognizing that. And they're quite nervous because the Port of Vancouver is becoming more competitive than Seattle and Tacoma. Each container coming into the Port of Vancouver is worth about $1,000 in terms of spin-off economies.
And that's good for that.
The port's most modern facility is TSI's terminal at Deltaport. It utilizes breakthrough computer software developed by TSI to track the exact location of every container. This system has been successfully exported to ports such as New York and Long Beach, California. General Manager Moens Christofferson.
And we knew from our previous experience at Vanterm that the voice radio communication system is very cumbersome and is very difficult to cope with because of the interference that is involved in voice radio. So we developed all of our systems around radio data systems. That gives us some distinct advantages, and it allows a more efficient operation and a more efficient mode of communication between the equipment and the operator and the system itself. This allows the operators also, without any other outside interference, to concentrate and focus on the specific job that is required in order to either stack or unstack containers when we're loading the trucks, whether it's going to a ship or whether it's going to a street truck.
Once the containers get to dock, you know, they're easier to move around, but getting them off the ship and on the ship is the most important part of the system. 4 hours is long enough. After 4 hours, I think you'd go a little stir crazy.
In order to maximize efficiency and minimize safety hazards, the BC Maritime Employers Association utilizes 2 high crane simulators where potential operators train under strictly supervised conditions. George Douglas manages the program.
We can simulate wind conditions, fog, rain, those types of things. We can simulate speed. We can make adjustments on the speed and the operating conditions to to provide the trainees with a sort of steadily more challenging atmosphere to work in or environment to work in. They can learn to operate the crane in a safe environment where they can make mistakes without causing damage or injury to anyone. They can learn progressively. We can start them off slowly and we can build up their speed and slowly build up their skills over a period of time and allow them to build their confidence without any danger to themselves or others and without any chance of causing injuries or expensive damage to materials or equipment. Everything follows at the pace that the crane operator moves at. So the movement of cargo across the dock in terms of containers follows the crane. So it's basically a production issue, and it makes us more competitive as a port. The faster we are at unloading containers, the more productive we are and the more competitive we are as a port. So being good at this particular type of skill is very important. It's one of the keys to success in the Port of Vancouver.
With hundreds of movements in and out of the port every day, the Port of Vancouver Authority has to keep a tight rein on countless international and local companies. The environment is one of their principal concerns.
My name is Jason. I'm a Harbor Patrol Officer for the Port of Vancouver. And what I do is I ride alongside in the boat with the boatmaster, the gentleman who operates the boat. And I go on board the vessels, the deep sea ships. And basically, you're an ambassador for the port. Chief, from the Harbor Master's office, come to check your ballast. You have your ship's logbook available? It's very unpredictable. You never know what you're going to run into. You can run into anything from pollution calls to commercial boats that spotted something in the water, pleasure craft that have broken down under the bridge. You've been here before, Captain?
Yes, the ship was here last month. We load from here wheat to Central America.
Because this being the marine business, you know, it doesn't stop. It's going 24 hours a day. There's always ships coming in and out of the port. It's quite a busy place.
In order to maintain a clean and healthy harbor, some of the workhorses most active in the port are tugboats.
We've been in business for 112 years, and besides ship docking, we also look after general towing of barges within the port, chip barges, oil barges, and gravel barges for various customers. And we also look after pollution boom work at the oil refineries. We maintain, build, and relocate pollution booms for the oil refineries above Second Arrows. Typical day at Kate's will be upwards of 14 or 15 ship assists, probably 8 to 12 barge assists, and a number of pollution boom movements up at the refineries.
When I first started here, all our equipment were 750 horsepower wooden tugs and used to hook on and tow off the back of the tug, and it was always something. You know, you wouldn't go through 6 months without something going on. You know, and, it had a lot of danger in it if you didn't watch yourself. But with the new type of tugs like these you have now, you tow off the bow. There's no keel on these. A ship can virtually drag you sideways 6-7 knots, and still you're not having any problems. And I can go sideways on these vessels. I can tow backwards and steer backwards, almost as good as you can straight forwards. Just incredible maneuverability with them. My boy, he started a couple of years ago, and he can't get enough. They could leave him out 365 days a year and never show him the shore, and he would be happier. He could not be happier.
Like all major ports, Vancouver has its fair share of crime. To combat the threat of illegal activities, especially drug smuggling, various law enforcement agencies are pushing the envelope in state-of-the-art policing.
Said quit the bus in the back of the head before. Is that yours?
As the traffic in the port increases, other forms of trafficking also rise. There are people who smuggle drugs, people who smuggle people. And the port also borders on Vancouver's Skid Row, the most crime-ridden area in Canada. Here, law enforcement demands a coordinated approach involving the city police, the RCMP, Canada Customs, and the Coast Guard. In the harbor, the police waterfront team maintain vigilant patrols. Sergeant Duke Andrash.
We go out, people get into trouble, they to assist the Coast Guard with various type of marine calls, anywhere from people running out of fuel to people sinking and whatnot. Unfortunately, we also get called to people who have jumped off bridges and stuff like that. We patrol the marinas, we patrol all the way around into Falls Creek. We take calls of any kind of crime along the waterfront. If there's been break-ins to boats and theft from boats or marinas. And typical day is patrolling on the water and just responding to the various things that happen.
Containers, break-in enters. There's a lot of prostitution happening down here, as you can tell. It's easy to park anywhere. There's a lot of theft, metal theft, which especially aluminum. It's quite expensive. Computers, this is Camp Fisco. They've been hit quite a few times. They go through the roof, or a lot of their boats, their fishing boats, get hit a lot because they have a lot of technology on board, i.e. radars, radios and stuff like that, computers, which indicate where the fish are and all that. And they get, that gets stolen, and that's quite expensive for them. And as, I don't know if you know anything about boats, but it's pretty hard to secure a boat. Looking for ID. We get very busy during the summertime with the cruise ships. All the Princess Cruise and all the other cruise ships that come in. Well, you got a lot of Americans coming in with guns and pepper spray and whatever else that comes through, so they have to come through our customs.
In the battle against drugs, the frontline warriors are the Canada Customs officers. They operate in the shadowy world of organized crime, cocaine cartels, and international dope rings. It's a high-stress, high-risk occupation. Customs Chief Kim Scoville.
Port officials have marketed this area very aggressively, and the result has been increase in business. And along with the legitimate trade comes the trade which we're interested in. But overall, we found the marine business has resulted in substantial seizures, and it has increased over the last 5 years. We've noticed a marked increase specifically over the last 3 years. The Port of Vancouver alone, our officers accounted for 21% of all the drugs seized across Canada last year. So that tells us that we play an important role here at the port. Well, this job, as you can see, it isn't an office environment. It can be quite a challenging area with respect to the elements. It can be dirty, it can be loud, it can be dangerous. The people that we're dealing with, the elements we're dealing with, really don't want us to be dealing with them, and it adds a component of risk to our job, which some people don't realize.
This is a common area. They can swim up there and just tie the drugs around.
We use basically three main tools besides the officers and trainings. When you're talking technology, we use an ion scanner, and it's a machine that allows us to take samples off of products, surface samples, analyze them, and look for trace particles or narcotics. That has been that tool has directly resulted in substantial seizures off vessels here in Vancouver. We have the dog, which is also a very well-known tool that we use. And the other item, which really doesn't get much play, which is really part of our arsenal, is the X-ray machine. We've had specialized X-ray machines made to reflect our business, and the result has been seizure after seizure. On the vessels now, we've seen it some very sophisticated ways where it's actually made into walls of the vessel during refits in foreign countries. We've seen it hidden in the bases of oil drums on the ship. We've seen it hidden in piping on the ship. And probably the biggest danger is they're actually going into areas which aren't meant for human life, areas where there may be no oxygen, may be hazardous chemicals or hazardous items in the air, and they have to be aware of that and protect themselves against it. For the most part, they are very organized. We see everything from product, from narcotics being introduced to product in the manufacturing process, to it being very simplistic, where large amounts of cocaine are left at the back of a container so that that container can be pilfered before it gets to the ultimate destination. That tells us they're very sophisticated and very confident in the manner in which they're operating.
In their unrelenting mission, Canada Customs is banking heavily on advanced technologies. And this is also true of the Coast Guard. Based at Vancouver International Airport, this new Coast Guard hovercraft is the shape of things to come. With a top speed of over 60 knots, it's the fastest craft of its type in service anywhere. Equally at home, skimming over water or asphalt or logs, it ensures the Coast Guard's dominant role in any kind of marine emergency.
It's special because it's amphibious, it's special because it's fast, and it's special because it's economical. So you have a very efficient vehicle which can cover a lot of ground in a short time. Primary use is search and rescue, and then the second one would be oil spill or pollution spills, where we can get in quickly. Third would be enforcement, where enforcement of fishing and poaching laws, and other uses would be science, studying in the shallows, all what goes on. Habitat restoration, going into shallow areas, helping to clean them up. And the lighthouse supply, just taking big loads very quickly up to different lighthouses. It can go over fairly rough ground, certainly mud flats. It's right at home over ice if we get shallows or icing. It can, as I say, sandbars, rocks, not too rough rocks, up to about 4 feet. It's very good. In a year, about 320 to 350 rescues. That's this unit only. We have another unit in Kitsilano, and we have another unit Parksville, different Coast Guard units around, but we're the primary unit here.
In the port, all air and marine traffic is controlled through 2 command centers on the waterfront. These towers are the eyes and the ears of the harbor. No movement goes unmonitored. From sea to sky, the throbbing pulse of harbor life invigorates the heart of the city.
On a good summer day, we can have upwards of 50, 60 movements in and out of Vancouver Harbor with our aircraft alone.
Flying in and out of Vancouver Harbor by float plane or helicopter presents special challenges. These pilots have to deal with inclement weather, constant port traffic, and other aircraft to operate safely. On this coast, marine aviation has a long and respected history, and in many ways helped to build the port.
Harbour Air Seaplanes is the largest all-seaplane airline in the world. We operate in the area of 30 to 40 aircraft, depending on the season. The reason for success in British Columbia is because British Columbia, being the wilderness area, the untapped, unsettled area that it has been in the last 50 years, it's afforded the de Havilland Beaver, the de Havilland Twin Otter, and the Turbine Otter an opportunity to take people into parts of British Columbia that you couldn't otherwise get to. The Port of Vancouver acts as, among other things, it acts as a transportation hub for the coast. Harbour has flights that go to Nanaimo, the Gulf Islands, other areas not on a scheduled basis, but it charters to other areas. The fishing camps, scheduled services over to Victoria. It brings people to Vancouver Harbour, and it affords people the ability to get to other city centres where the only other option they would have is by boat.
It's a commuter operation between a number of different destinations: Vancouver Harbour, Victoria Harbour, Vancouver International, and Boeing Field. And it's a full IFR capable operation, which basically means that we can fly in cloud and in most types of weather.
My position is a pilot here with HeliJet, and we work in a two-pilot environment, so we're always operating with two of us in the cockpit, and we work together, use one another in the decision-making process, flying back and forth between Vancouver and Victoria primarily, and we do have runs also to Seattle.
One of the big advantages is that you're home every night, which is not something that could be said for most of the helicopter industry or most of the fixed-wing commuter airline industry.
There are other things to contend with operating here with the float plane operators as well. It's not just us flying through the skies. Definitely to think about. The ferries that operate in and out of the ports are something that we have to think about when we are doing our approaches and our departures from here as well. I do realize that there are a few females. I don't like to think that my choices are limited, but it is difficult to get work being a female in some respects. Physical size obviously keeps me away from doing heavy lifting type positions, but I don't think it's ever hindered me. It's not something that I think about.
The biggest challenge that we deal with here primarily is it's feast or famine. You can be very quiet for an extended period of time and all of a sudden have 5 aircraft arrive at one time. And so the challenge is to make sure that each and every aircraft is dealt with safely.
In terms of exports, Vancouver is the largest port in North America. Most of its cargoes are shipped in bulk. Grains, sulfur, coal, and wood products leave these docks every day, destined for countries worldwide. In recent years, one type of cargo being loaded in this harbor has been the focus of considerable controversy. It's the practice of exporting raw logs, which some lobby and environmental groups, such as Greenpeace, claim to be tantamount to exporting Canadian jobs. These logs are shipped mostly to Asia, where they are processed into value-added products. Although it's a very small part of port trade, it remains a thorn in the side of many. Much more important in terms of dollars is the perennial shipment of grains.
Cascadia Terminal, I would estimate, as being extremely critical to the life of the port. We've handled anywhere from 3 million to 4.1 million tons of grain annually through the Port of Vancouver in the last 10 years.
The golden harvest of prairie grains rests in these elevators, on its way to feed the world. It's all part of a growth cycle that reaps enormous benefits all the way down the line.
Cascadia Terminal will ship grain all over the world. A lot of it goes to the Far East markets, but we also ship to Africa, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, India, Far East, and sometimes even over to Europe.
Vancouver Wharves on the North Shore is one of the port's most versatile facilities. It handles a plethora of products and is currently undergoing a major expansion. President Bill Waymark.
The impact that we'll have really will not only be on the port, but right across Western Canada. We will be providing our customers with a world-class facility, and that will allow them to get their product to market in the most efficient way possible.
The port sustains many businesses of varying sizes. A smaller company is United Maritime Supplies. They specialize in filling orders from freighters. No request is too exotic or mundane. For as long as there will be sailors going down to the sea in ships, great ports will prosper. But in the future, it's the ships themselves that will be steering a different course. BC Ferries is currently updating its fleet with a revolutionary line of vessels. These are a new breed of catamarans, fast ferries entirely built out of aluminum. This cutting-edge technology is being pioneered at Vancouver shipyards.
Well, I'm a single parent, I'm a single mom, and so my day starts about 5 in the morning, and I get my son ready and do the breakfast thing and drop my son off at daycare, and then I get myself to work, and I basically just work all day. I like to see the finished product. It's nice to do a good job and then to be able to stand back and know you did the best you could do. And it's nice in the end to see this gigantic ferry. I'm looking forward to actually being on it now that it's the first one's almost done. And I'm looking forward to getting on that, and I'll be looking at all the wells.
How it differs from the shipbuilding industry of the norm, which is the old steel ships, is that this is totally built in block modular construction. It's like a Lego set. There are 147 pieces, all being fabricated in different shipyards, 6 major shipyards, being brought here to the Fast Ferry facility in North Vancouver, where it's assembled. The workforce had to learn new techniques. In the past, the only thing that had been built on this coast, although we specialised in many different types of ships, was steel construction. We had to go through intense training programs lasting anywhere up to 8 months to train a workforce of 300 welders on how to handle aluminum.
But with new techniques come new problems. This prototype ferry has been plagued with teething troubles and budget overruns. Despite these initial setbacks, shipbuilders are banking on long-term success and the prospect of foreign orders flowing in.
It's a major step in the right direction. It has revitalized an industry that essentially went dead in 1993. So this is the opportunity to not only improve the technology and productivity, but also to invest in the companies for the future.
We tried to concentrate in Vancouver on quality of life rather than the financial, business, and economic necessities of life. We're now into a difficult financial situation, and I think that you're beginning to see that understanding turn a bit, where the community is beginning to realize, jobs have to happen in the city if you're going to be successful. Because our big business opportunities are to convince the Asian customer and shipper to come to Vancouver first and then go to the States. If we do that, they'll unload their containers for both the States and Canada on our docks. So we believe if we can convince people that we've got the best price, we've got the best service, and we've got a route that will save them time, that we'll get the business we need.
The port is a microcosm of the country. It's a testament to industry, energy, and diversity. It's also a place where people can celebrate the tradition that makes possible the promise of tomorrow.